So I have now read 20 books for my Reading Around the World challenge, and today I'm going to rank all of them. Hello and welcome if you are new, and welcome back if you are a subscriber. I am today going to talk all about my Reading Around the World challenge. So I mainly do this over on my TikTok. I make a video per book and it's the most fun and it's been the most rewarding challenge. I've absolutely loved doing it this year, but I really wanted to do kind of a summary video for the end of the year of all of the different books I managed to read, and also kind of do a little league table ranking type thing where I want to tell you all of the books that I read and what I thought of them, and then also come up with the ultimate book of which one beats out all of the other countries and becomes my favourite book. I do know that lots of other people do this challenge as well, and I have encouraged people to do this challenge along with me. So hopefully this will give you some great inspiration of where to start if you're looking for books for these countries, and also maybe some books to avoid if you are also doing this challenge for books that I found it a struggle to get through. Also, I have been ill, so if anyone did notice, I usually upload 2 videos a week. I only did 1 this week because I was not feeling well, so that was why I didn't do 2 videos. I'm sure that no one actually really noticed. Also, if you can tell that I'm still ill, then I'm sorry because I feel a bit like gross and bunged up still, but we're fine, and we're well enough to film, which is a relief. So to start out this video, I want to just go through every single book that I've read so far for this challenge, tell you the book and tell you the country, and then we're going to get into doing a battle or like a league table type thing where I'm going to pair the books up to each other, and it's going to be so much fun. So I have read 20 books for the challenge myself, but also I have a Reading Around the World book club that I host, which is the most fun in the world, by the way. If you would like to join, I host it over on Fable, and I also do live shows on TikTok, and it is so much fun. We have about 250 people currently in the book club on Fable, and basically for that book club we do a similar thing where I spin a wheel with all the countries, and we spin it 3 times, and then in the chat we vote on which country and which book we want to do for that month, and it's been so much fun. So we have done that for 4 months, so I've read 4 books for that as well. So total we're talking about 24 different books. So for anyone unfamiliar with my TikTok series that I do about the Reading Around the World challenge, basically what I do usually is I spin a wheel and it gives me a randomized country, and then I find a book and read it for that country. So because it's randomized, it's really fun. It means it's a bit more difficult sometimes to complete the challenge as quickly as I would like, because I have to find, source the book and read it and then do the review all in one video, but I do love doing it with a randomized wheel. So let's jump in and I'll show you the 20 books that I've so far done for that challenge. I'll tell you the book and the country, maybe a sentence or 2 about the book itself, but I'm not going to go into too much depth. So the first book that I read for this challenge was Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi, and this is for Ghana. This is a multi-generational saga following the descendants of 2 sisters born in Ghana. Next up, I read Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia for Mexico. And then I had Thailand, for which I read The Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth. This follows 3 different people whose lives are very tangled together, and it's very magical realism. Next up, I had Portugal, which I read Blindness. This is about a collapse of a society after people are infected with a disease that causes a white blindness. So next up, I had Lebanon, and I read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. This is a short philosophical book about a prophet who is giving advice to a crowd of people. So next up, I spun Spain, and I read The Shadow of the Wind. The next up, I spun Sri Lanka, and I actually technically did 2 books for this challenge, but I'm just going to talk about the book that I preferred out of the 2, which was A Passage North. This tells the tale about a young man who is travelling through his country to go to the funeral of his grandmother's former caregiver. Next up, I spun Nigeria in the wheel, and I read The Purple Hibiscus, which tells the story of a family living through a military coup in Nigeria. Next up, I got Trinidad and Tobago, and I read The Bread the Devil Need, which for some reason is such a complicated title to say. This tells the story of Alethea, who lives in the port of Spain, and her whole life is thrown into chaos after she witnesses a murder. Next up, I span the wheel and got Latvia, and I read Soviet Milk. This story follows 3 different generations and the effect of Soviet rule on these different generations living in Latvia. Next, I spun the wheel and got the Netherlands, and I read The Discomfort of Evening, which, if you've ever heard me talk about this book, it's one of the most unsettling books I have ever read. It made me feel so disgusted. Next up, I did Iran, which I did The Blind Owl. This book I can't even describe because it is so unusual. Next up, I got South Korea, which I've read a lot of different South Korean literature, so it was very difficult to choose one specifically to talk about for the challenge, but I ended up picking one of my favourites, which is The Vegetarian. This book is all about a woman who one day decides that she is going to become a vegetarian, and it is seen as a huge act of rebellion in her family and in her society. Next up, I did Italy, and for that I did My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This tells a story about two young girls who are brilliantly clever, but through their education they end up going on quite different life paths. Next up, I did Poland, and I read Swimming in the Dark, but I actually am going to redo Poland because after I read and reviewed this one, I realised that I don't think technically that the author is living in Poland, which is one of my rules for the challenge. Personally, I usually do a author who is from the country, and the book has to also be based in that country. This book is based in the country and the author's parents are Polish, but I don't think they grew up in Poland. I'm going to still include this book in this summing up video, but the book that I'm going to actually do for Poland when I have time is I'm going to do Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead, which I've heard is absolutely amazing and also by a Polish author. So that will eventually be the one for Poland, but for now I'm going to be doing this one. Next up, I got Afghanistan, and I did A Thousand Splendid Sun, and then I got Oman, for which I did Celestial Bodies, and then I got Colombia, for which I did Love in the Time of Cholera, which we will get into, but I did not love this book. This is a story all about a couple who have a love affair when they're young, but basically the man never gives up, and even after she's married someone else, pines for her for 57 years or something, and then when her husband dies, he goes to the funeral and professes his love for her and says he wants to have another chance. And then the next country I got was Senegal, and this is the only book that I don't own physically because it was kind of difficult to find and I've only done it quite recently, but the book that I read was So Long a Letter, and this is basically what it sounds like. It's a very long letter written by the main character to her best friend after her husband has died. And then finally, the most recent one that I've done for the challenge is The Ice Palace for Norway, which tells the story about two young girls who have one evening together and form an unbreakable bond. Then one of the girls goes missing the next day. So those are the 20 books that I have read for the challenge, where I do it randomized and I do it on my own. But like I said, I've also been doing it as a book club. So we have done 4 books for the book club, and let me just go and get them. They actually just sit up here on this shelf. I've just realized I've been saying 4 and it's actually 5. So this is actually going to be kind of annoying because it's going to mean we have an odd number. I thought we'd have perfectly even number for the league table, but anyway, I'll do these in the order that we read them. So first off, we did Georgia, and we read The Pear Field, which is all about a girl called Layla who is now 18, but she has grown up in this school for intellectually disabled children, and she is kind of hanging around and trying to protect some of the children before she decides to move on and move out of the school. And then the next book that we did, we had Indonesia, and we read a short story collection called Happy Stories Mostly. And then the next book we did for the book club is Estonia, and we did The Man Who Spoke Snakish, which is all about our main character who's the only one left who can speak kind of the language of the forest and of the animals, and it's really steeped in Estonian mythology and folklore. And then for the book club we got Cuba, and we read Havana Year Zero, which is all about a mathematician and her friends who are basically trying to prove that the telephone was invented in Havana by an Italian man, and it's just as weird as it sounds. And then the most recent one that we have done for the book club is North Korea, and we did The Accusation by Bandy. This again is short stories. This is so unique in the fact that it's one of the only fiction books that have been published by someone who is currently still probably living in North Korea by an author that we don't know the real identity of. Those are the 25 books that I've read for my Reading Around the World challenge, and now let's do a little league table. So this is going to be so much fun. Okay, so I have now made I've been saying league table, I think it's actually called like a tournament knockout thing, but you're gonna see what it is anyway. Okay, so I have entered everything into this website, and now I'm gonna shuffle them. So basically, because we have too many spots and I only have 25, that's 32 spots, I've just moved some of them so they're matched up to each other. I'm leaving the Netherlands on its own because it just kind of worked out that way. I don't know if this is gonna work, but we're gonna see how it works. I'm not very mathematical, so it's kind of annoying for me to have to like try and figure it out, but I'm happy with this. It's as randomized as I can get it, and we are going to now start doing some knockouts. So I'm so excited. So the first one that we have here is Indonesia against Trinidad and Tobago. This is actually quite a good matchup because they are similar in my mind of my enjoyment for them, but I would probably say that I enjoyed the Trinidad Tobago, which is the Bread the Devil Need. I probably enjoyed this one more, so I think this is about a 4-star for me. The other one was maybe 3.5, so I'm going to advance this to the next round. The next matchup we have is Poland and Nigeria. This is also tricky because they are roughly the same in terms of how I felt about them. I think I'll probably put Purple Hibiscus through to the next round though. Also because I'm not going to carry on, like I'm going to replace Swimming in the Dark with a different Polish book soon, so I feel like I'm fine with knocking that out this round. The next one is very interesting. It's 2 book club books. So if anyone's in the book club, they already know exactly which one I'm going to advance in terms of these 2 books. There is a clear winner. So Estonia is The Man Who Spoke Snakish, and then the other one is North Korea, which is The Accusation. For me, this is a clear win. The Accusation wins. It's short stories, which I don't normally love. I've never read anything like it, whereas the Estonia book, The Man Who Spoke Snakish, was one of those books that started off really well and then just went off the rails, and I hated the ending of this book. Next up we have Norway, which is the most recent one I've done, and also Portugal, which is one of the early ones I did. This is quite difficult because I really enjoyed both of these. So this is the Ice Palace versus Blindness. I think this is very difficult, you know. They're very different from each other. The Ice Palace is a cold and like haunting book, and then Blindness I really enjoyed. I actually listened to that as an audiobook, which I would really recommend, by the way, because it's written in a very unusual way. You know what? I think I'll do the Ice Palace. Okay, next up it is Iran versus Georgia. This is the Blind Owl versus the Pearfield. This is tricky because I did not love the Pearfield, but the Blind Owl was one of the most confusing books I've ever read, and it was really difficult to get through. So maybe I'd go for the Pearfield purely because I could actually finish it. I mean, I finished both. Okay, next up we have Mexico, Velvet Was the Night versus Senegal. Oh, this one's pretty easy. So Long a Letter. I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favourites that I've read for this challenge so far. It was beautiful, it had strong female friendships, it was so interesting, it was really beautifully written. So Senegal wins that easily for me. Next up we have Sri Lanka, A Passage North versus Homegoing from Ghana. This is quite difficult. I really enjoyed both of them. Well, I don't know actually. I was going to say Homegoing, but you know what? I'm really remembering Passage North and I did really enjoy it, but I do think I have to give it to Homegoing. It's just such a beautiful book. This is Homegoing. I'd really recommend everyone reads this one. Okay, next up we have Italy, My Brilliant Friend, and Lebanon, The Prophet. I think I'm really in the minority that I did not enjoy My Brilliant Friend at all. So for this one, I'll go for The Prophet, which was a lovely kind of calm, nice read. We have a few gaps here, and then down here we're doing Thailand versus Oman. So The Blind Earthworm, I really loved it, and Celestial Bodies I just liked, so I'm going to push forward Thailand for that one. Next up we have South Korea versus Spain. I really liked The Vegetarian, and I did not love Shadow of the Wind. Also another unpopular opinion. I think that everyone loves Shadow of the Wind, and I just really didn't like it that much. I'm going to push forward South Korea. Next up we have the Netherlands, which is unfortunately going through by itself. And then we're having Cuba versus Latvia. Oh no, oh wait, I've spelled this wrong. I really like both of these, which is a shame because they have to go against the Netherlands, which I hated. Oh, this is difficult. I really enjoyed both of them. They're very different. Soviet Milk is about living life under, you know, Soviet rule. It's got lots of imagery that is really interesting, and I really liked it, and I learned a lot about Latvia. But then Havana Year Zero was just actually fun, and like for this challenge I haven't read that many books that are really fun. I think I have to put Havana Year Zero through. Okay, so that's round number 1. We've had some knockouts. I'm feeling good about it. This will be interesting to do for round number 2. So for round number 2 we are starting off with Trinidad Tobago against Nigeria, which is the Purple Hibiscus. This one's tricky, you know. They're about the same, I think, in my ratings, how I feel about them. But I'm probably gonna push forward Bread the Devil Need, because I think I learnt a lot more about the country, and it was much more of a different type of book that I've never read before. Because the Purple Hibiscus, it's a good book, but I have, you know, it's not like it's that unique to me, even though it is well written. Next up we have North Korea versus Norway. This is tricky, but I think The Accusation has it. It's more fresh in my mind. I've just finished this one, and I really, really liked it, and just like such an insight into a country that I would just never normally get any insight to. Okay, and then next up we have Georgia the Pearfield and So Long a Letter. This is easy. So Long a Letter goes forward, Ghana Homegoing is going forward, and then Lebanon the Prophet is going forward by itself. This one's getting an easy ride. I've just realised this is not the best way to do it, but I couldn't figure out how else to do it, so it's fine. Next up we have Thailand versus South Korea. The Blind Earthworm versus Vegetarian. This is difficult. This is a really tough one. They are both like 4.5 stars out of 5 for me. Blind Earthworm is a very unusual, very magical book, and then The Vegetarian is very unsettling. Oh, I don't know. This one's really hard. They're really the same in terms of my enjoyment of them. Okay, these are the two. Oh, I don't know. Based on cover, this one wins. I absolutely love it. You know what? I'm going with this. I'm going with Thailand. I don't even really know why. I'm just gonna go with it. Blind Earthworm is going through. Then next up we have the Netherlands versus Havana Year Zero. That's an easy choice for me. Havana Year Zero goes through. The Netherlands, kick that right out. Okay, so for round number 3, we have Trinidad and Tobago versus North Korea. I'm gonna do The Accusation. I think because it's really fresh in my mind, and also because I've read it with the book club. Like, I love reading things with people, and I think that that does push things up in terms of your enjoyment. I mean, that might be biased, but life is biased. This whole ranking is biased, so I'm pushing that through. Next up, we have So Long a Letter versus Homegoing. Both excellent books, but I'm putting forward So Long a Letter. I really, really love that one. And then The Prophet gets another free ride to the next round. Okay, and then, oh, this gets harder and harder. This is so difficult. Okay, Blind Earthworm versus Havana Year Zero. Blind Earthworm is much more of a serious book, and then Havana Year Zero is much more fun. And I really needed the fun when I was doing it. Also, you can kind of tell which ones I've been doing for book club, because this is another book club one, and it does push up the enjoyment. So because we've just been reading so many sad books, and then this one was finally like a fun one, it really felt like a relief. Okay, having thought about it a little longer, I think I'm just going to push this one forward, because I have to go with my heart, and this one I really enjoyed at the time that I read it, and I was also very surprised by it, and it was very fun. So Havana Year Zero can advance to the semi-finals. Oh my god, this is so exciting. Okay, so we have the 4 in the semi-finals. North Korea, Senegal, Lebanon and Cuba. We've got quite a geographical range there. That's pretty good. This is so interesting. So for the first semi-final, North Korea versus Senegal, I think for me it has to be So Long a Letter. I just loved the themes in it, and I loved how it was written. And it's also another one of those books I would have never picked up if not for this challenge. And I ended up loving it. So Long a Letter goes through. And then we have Lebanon and Havana Year Zero. I feel like Lebanon got too easy of a run coming through. So for me, I'm doing Havana Year Zero. Oh my god, this is so strange to having these two as like kind of the final two. I don't even have a physical book of So Long a Letter, but this is so interesting. Okay, I think for me, I knew right at the beginning of this video that this book was going to be number 1. So I'm putting Senegal, So Long a Letter as my number 1 choice for all of the books that I've read for Reading Around the World Challenge. This has been so much fun. I don't know how it would have played out. I think the end result would have been the same, but in terms of like the semi-finalists, I'm not sure how it would have played out if I'd randomized it differently. Like Lebanon probably wouldn't have gone that far, although I did enjoy it, and some other ones would have gotten further into the kind of the semi-finals. But oh my god, this was so much fun. And one thing that he has really taught me is that I need to buy a physical copy of So Long a Letter, because apparently it's my favourite book that I've read so far for the challenge. So yeah, this was so much fun. And let me know if you want more videos like this, and if you want more videos talking about my Reading Around the World challenge. I'll obviously be carrying on doing it next year because it's just so much fun. I also have rated and ranked from 1 to 25 all of the books that I've read for this challenge. So if you're interested in seeing that video, then I can do that for you. This will be one of my last videos for 2023, and so I just also want to say thank you so much. If you have subscribed to me this year, I only started making videos in the summer, but it's just been so much fun, and I've gotten so much joy from making these videos and connecting with people on YouTube. So I just want to say thank you so much if you have joined me on this journey this year. And if you haven't yet, then hit subscribe because it means so much to me. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye.